I'm Max Sterling, welcome to LARPgasm. So I've been using these really awesome Epic Armoury swords for about the last 4 years, and for me that's a lot of LARPing. Now when I first bought these swords, I took a look at them, I really liked them, but my initial opinion was these things aren't going to make it 1 year. Well, here I am 4 years later and I'm still using them, but they are in severe disrepair. So these swords, they're broken, falling apart. I don't know if you can tell, but a lot of the latex is off them. I got chips out of them. I have tried to repair these tips so many times with glue, and just the latex is cracked, and you know, they're just in really bad shape, and I used 2 of them. Now I didn't really feel like buying 2 more, so I wanted to see if I could fix these up. Now you can of course send them away to have them professionally done. You know, you can use latex paint to fix them, but I want to do it as cheaply as possible. So here's how to repair your latex swords on a budget. Now you're going to need a couple of things. First, you're going to need your swords. You're going to want to make sure that you have some Plasti Dip. I'm going to use the gray, and they also make something called a metallizer, which I'm going to use. That should hopefully restore this Epic Armoury sort of shimmery color that these swords have back to the blades. And then of course I'm going to use the clear coat that Plasti Dip makes. As well, we're going to need some degreaser, some sandpaper, and I would suggest wearing gloves. The degreaser is going to be to get all the silicone off of the latex that we've been putting on there. And then the sandpaper is going to be to rough up the latex that's on there now so that the Plasti Dip will adhere to it better. Now as far as gluing these pieces back together, they say to use like Aleene's or some specific type of glue. However, every time I use that glue, these things rip apart. So I'm going to use just some heavier glue. The parts that are falling loose or coming off of the blade, it's just for me sheathing the sword and then riding on there, so it's breaking these. So really I can use a much stronger, harder glue because that is not a striking surface, and that's exactly what I'm gonna do. So let's go ahead and start with the first step. Now the first step, like I said, is going to be to degrease this blade. So we're going to spray the degreaser on, wipe it down real good. Second step is going to be to sand the blade and get it ready for paint or Plasti Dipping. And that should only take a second. It's not that difficult to do. And then the next step is, you know, painting it. We're going to do a couple layers of the silver or gray Plasti Dip. Then we're going to use this metallizer on it, and then we're going to clear it when it's all dry. And hopefully we end up with a good looking blade, and then you know, we'll hit it with some silicone and try to maintain that and see how it lasts compared to the actual latex. I figure if this is something I even have to do yearly, well, that's a lot cheaper than buying a new blade. Pro tip. Be sure to do any repairs to the sword before you begin plasti dipping. So if you have holes in the blade or gouges in the blade or any sort of places where the latex has peeled away from the foam, cut those down, glue them back together. Like I said, the manufacturers will probably recommend a specific type of glue. For me, I actually just used barge glue to put it back together. But you want to make sure that everything is nice and streamlined and sturdy before you put the Plasti Dip on. The Plasti Dip will provide its own protective coating, but you need to fix those issues with the actual blade first. So be sure to do that. I'm going to put 3 coats on each blade, and I'm laying it on pretty thick. 1 can seemed to be enough to do 2 swords, so take that sort of as your gauge. If you want to buy the Plasti Dip that you paint on or can dip, that also works just fine. The stuff in the spray can was cheaper for me, and I knew I was going to be using the metallizer and stuff anyway, so it was just easier to buy a couple spray cans. After you get your coats of Plasti Dip on there, and like I said, I'm going to suggest 3, but you can go as heavy as you want. After you get that 3rd coat on, if you're going to do the metallizer step, that's when you do that. And as far as the metallizer, the more you spray on, the more sort of that shiny metallic look it gets. So I'm going to start with 1 coat and see how it goes from there. And if you don't want that sort of look, then you let the gray dry, hit it with the gloss clear coat that Plasti Dip makes, and you should be all set. But it is a very straightforward, dull sort of gray color, so the swords don't look that fantastic if you do leave it that natural color, but that's entirely up to you. Also, now I'm doing this because I know that my game will pass these. They allow latex weapons, they allow calamucil, they allow homemade buffers, basically whatever you want to do. But you're going to want to check with your game first to make sure that they allow this type of weapon. If you've seen Plasti Dip weapons turned down in the past, there's a good possibility that this may be turned down. Some people say that they hit harder, but I don't see these Epic Armoury swords with some Plasti Dip hitting any harder than a calamucil blade or a similar style of blade. So be sure to check with your game though. The main reason I did this is because these swords were basically shot. They're basically junk. This was sort of a last hurrah to try to breathe some more life into them, to maybe squeeze an extra year out of them. If it worked, then hey, I can do this and keep up on them every year if I need to. If it didn't work though, it wasn't going to be that big of a loss to me. So you need to check with your game and you need to make the call. If you have an old blade that is basically junk, I would say go ahead and do it, take it to your game and see if it passes. If not, you'll at least have your sword restored back to a pretty decent looking shape, and you could always hang it on your wall or retire it. And here's the finished product. As you can see, I've restored a lot of shine back to the blade. The Plasti Dip has held up well. We have the metallizer on there with the glossifier to give it that sparkly effect. I've actually sort of revamped and breathed new life into the crossguard, and you can see nice and shiny the whole way out to the tip. Even that spot where I had that ding in it has all but disappeared, and basically I end up with 2 like new swords. Very happy with how these turned out. Now I did play test these, and the Plasti Dip is a lot more sort of tacky than the latex would be, so I would suggest probably using latex. But I sprayed the silicone on here, and they seem okay for now. They did last through the event, and I'm hoping that they last another event. But even if they don't, it was easy enough to do that I could always do it again if I had to. So long term, we'll have to see how these hold up, but definitely for the short term, if you have a sword or a set of swords and you just need to squeeze one more event out of, or if you use these blades for non-combat and they're starting to look raggedy, this is a great way to revamp them, get some new life into them, and get them ready for war again. So, Plasti Dip, the metallizer and the glossifier, let it dry, hit it with the silicone, and you're good to go. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to click that like button, click subscribe, and click the little bell icon to make sure you get notified when I release new videos. And as always, adventure on.
Oh, the dragon's balls were blazing as I stepped into his cave. I sliced his fucking cockles with a long and shiny blade. It was I who fucked the dragon. Fuck-a-lee, sing fuck-a-loo. And if you try to fuck with me, then I shall fuck you too. Gotta get it on in the party zone. Gotta bust the load in the party zone. Gotta lick a toad in the party zone. You gotta suck a chode in the party zone.